Hey, everybody. Another fun interview from Cinequest, the Cinequest Film Festival. I get to talk to filmmaker Rich Ho about the 12-year project that he put, 12 or 13 years, we'll hear in the interview, that he put in making his own sci-fi movie and, independently, and the work that he had to put into that as with emerging tech and things. And basically, it's a story not only of the accomplishment and community and acceptance and self-empowerment, but the story of the making of it as well. A story of a man's promise to himself, facing fears, and doing something to teach and support your own children, and just a lot of really cool things. Cool guy, cool stories. Real quick, I want to hit up the highlighted charity for this month. We're drawing to the end of March, and this month we have been focused on CHIRLA, the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights. CHIRLA is the acronym. Go to chirla.org to learn more about this wonderful organization. If you do become a Broken Brain Patreon member in this month, then half of your donation will go towards CHIRLA and will continue to go towards CHIRLA every single month for however long you are donating. Plus, you get all them special bonus materials. So, all right, everyone, now take it away, me and Rich Ho, as you listen to us talk.
The Broken Brain.
Recording in progress.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to The Broken Brain. This is Dwight, your host, as we journey along and look at the intersection of psychology and culture. And it is film festival season. At least it is the time where the Cinequest Film Festival, and I've been lucky to connect with several independent artists who are having their films shown there. And I'm really excited today to be joined by Rich Ho, who is the writer, director, and most other things. We'll get into that. Very impressed with the roles, how much you put into this project. The movie is Heavens, The Boy and His Robot. This is which is really, really interesting and beautiful science fiction film. And I always like to pass this by people and see what they think. I like to read the IMDb description, and then you can critique it. Unless you wrote it, I'm not sure. Sometimes people.
No, I didn't write it.
I'm not sure where it comes from. I don't know if it's AI or Redditors, but
I think
somebody.
I think my sales agent modified it.
Oh, okay. Yes, that's probably good. So the description is the journey of a struggling young pilot, Kai, and his fighter mecha, Little Dragon, set against a backdrop of epic galactic warfare, told with action, humor, and heart, rekindling wonder in adults and sparking the imagination of children. And I should say, yes, this is a obviously family accessible kind of thing, but yet I found just watching it as an adult, it didn't have that feel of only being a family movie, if that makes sense. And so I'm curious your thoughts. That description to me is pretty good, but exists in a world where humans have populated many planets throughout the universe, and as soon as they figure out how to spread, they fight, which makes sense for humans, I guess. And Earth being the one that has water, there's a lot of fight over Earth's resources, which I thought was pretty cool. Hey, do you like that description? Does it work? The IMDb one?
Actually, I think
you change it.
Yeah, it works. It works. Especially about. It was interesting because a part of it about adults and children was something that I had to learn the hard way of having that description in, because long story short, Cinequest will be the first time we're having a world premiere of the final version of the film after 13 years. But before that, it's like amazing that the work in progress was shown at different festivals. So the synopsis, or rather the description of the film, was shaped along the way from people's reaction to it. Just like you just said, you said you didn't feel like a family film, the typical family film for you. Things like that.
Right. In a way that, not in a way that it's not family friendly, but that it isn't something that's like, oh, we're trying really hard to be family friendly in a way that shows or something.
Correct.
It's just a story. Yeah.
So it shaped the way we describe it, along the way. So it's.
One of the things, this is a mech or mecha, however people, I've heard different ways to look at this genre of the people that are fighting in big mech kind of things. And I think you do some interesting things with this genre that I've never really seen before. I'm not going to claim to have seen every fictional thing with mech out there, but it's a fascinating kind of a tool, narrative tool. I think that you take it a little deeper into the development of this character, of this pilot, in a way that isn't just, here's an awesome pilot who's going to get an awesome robot and go have awesome fights. It's like a real journey of Kai and his own self-doubts and the way that he's fitting in to this role that he wants so desperately but isn't sure how he fits into. That's how it struck me. So.
Yeah, that's very accurate description.
Well, I wanted to ask you about, you just mentioned this is a 13-year project, right?
Finally, I've come to the end of the journey. Almost.
Yes. At least it's there. It's made. It's
yeah.
I was amazed by, for those that, for the screener, at least they sent me, I was able to see the film. And then during some of the credits, there was some footage and some information that was given about it. And I was amazed. As much as I really enjoy the film, I was also amazed to see some of the making of, where, here's where you thought of it, here's where you cast it, here's where there was it struck me, there was you did some of the motion capture for the mech animation, right? And that hit me because you had this green screen room and you had a bunch of cameras. And I'm like, whenever I've seen these behind the scenes, you look at like a Marvel movie, there's like 9,000 people in the room. And this was you. You were like doing it. I assume editing it. You were, all of that, right?
Yeah. The interesting about that room that you saw, I should not talk too much about it. No spoilers.
No, go for it.
That room, that room was containing original technology called Vicon. It costs about $100,000 in Singapore cents. But I thought that if I were to make the film and have the motion capture using $100,000 technology, that's very inaccessible to dreamers out there. So I did my research, and it was way back in 2014 when we did the motion capture, and I found a company that was having experimental technology. And experimental technology is such that you can use 6 webcams. Before COVID, no one cares about webcams. So they were expensive in a way. So you did 6 Sony PSIs, first generation webcams. They cost $60 each. In that room, that is housing $100,000 worth of motion capture software. And that webcam was actually capturing me. You would see me in a very unglam attire. It's not my dress sense, actually. It's just using color separation to denote like my hands, my arms. It's also using color separation to sort of like capture the nuances of the animation. And I'm so glad we actually worked out that we could, instead of having 9,000 people inside, like you said, we could have just me and 2 technicians. Starting and stopping.
Yeah. It's remarkable. I was really impressed with this. A lot of times when I've gone, especially the festival circuit and things, when I've seen sci-fi is quite difficult for a lot of people to do. And if they do it, it's oftentimes just a locked room mystery or whatever it is, just a set that, because the special effects, as you're just talking about, like prohibitively expensive, hard to access. This is very highly animated, and I was very impressed with the level of animation that you're able to do. How did you do that? How did you pull it off? Was this just a lot of kind of fundraising, new technology? What kinds of programming did you have to do to get that?
Sure. Before I get into the technology, I like to acknowledge that I didn't do it myself. Mm-hmm. There was a whole army of talented artists that walked alongside me that we create together. So at the end of the day, it's still about the artist to capture every single thing, to capture the emotions that the motion capture puts in and translate it into the robot to make something that's inanimate, something that is not there, present for the audience. So I like to acknowledge the artist behind it. And now we talk about the technology that empowers these creators. So it was way back in 2012 after I wrote the script. That is another story. That I thought to myself, what is going on in the visual effects industry when there was that green screen protest, the green protest happening in Hollywood down 2012-13, where Life of Pi, who won the best visual effects, but the company, Rhythm and Hughes, goes down. Something's wrong. And I thought to myself, if I was to create this script that I didn't know how to fulfill, something must change. Something must change such that artists do not need to work 28-hour days, 10-day weeks. These are people. They are not tools. So one evening I was walking around in my mom-in-law's house. And I went to the door and saw my brother-in-law, he's always hunched, playing computer games. I'm not a gamer. Sorry, I'm not a gamer. But what fascinated me was what in the world was driving his game. It's just something that is driving his game that makes his first-person shooter game very realistic. It's almost unreal to me. So I asked him, what is the thing? And he just mumbled, GPU. And that stuck on me, which began a research on what in the world graphics processing units were, so on and so forth. And I thought to myself, could I create a workflow together with other partners to create a new workflow of creation that allows the artist to go from concept to reality faster, to have less time experimenting, but more time actually creating, to allow people to have more time to enjoy the process instead of every time I have an idea, it takes 16 hours to render something. Wow. So that became the research, and I'm very thankful it began when it began NVIDIA, which is super popular now for AI and all. But back then, they were just known as a graphics card. So NVIDIA came on board, Sony came on board, Octane Render, one of the renderers, came on board, a university in Singapore came on board, and using my film as an R&D test bed, whether it's possible that this GPU technology could actually power film. 13 years later, I'm glad to say that it worked.
And it looks good because not all animated things like that hold up. Even like the big budget blockbuster kinds of things, you look back a couple decades and you're like, ugh. Whereas some of them age well rather than others. But with seeing a lot of sort of the AI slop that people are putting out on the internet, and I didn't make up that term. That's just a term that's there. There's somehow one of my algorithms kept showing me little reels of someone who's like, look at these cool, things I made. And they're not good at all. And they don't look good. And it's like, this is not someone who's professional. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to dunk on anybody who's just playing around with Midjourney or whatever, programs. But, so anyway, as I watched it, I could say I was watching saying like, there's some real artists involved in this. There's creative people that did this because it still looks good over the years of doing it. So I was very impressed with that. I was like, man,
thank you.
And then I like how you showed too, the way you upcycled all the sets. It seemed like all the props and sets, you made them out of garbage. It said. I was like, that was crazy to me because they just look high tech and, like the future.
Yeah, in my mind, that was actually born out of, a depressing thing that happened in my life. Yeah. If we got time, we can talk about it. Do we got time?
Go for it. Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, if you want to talk about it, I'd love to hear about it.
Okay. I mean,
it's up to you, though. Intention. I mean, it sounds like
sure. No worries. Yeah, I mean, I like your podcast. It's talking about healing and so forth as well. Sure. So I thought, maybe I could talk a little bit about this. So it was actually in 2017. So what is on plan? On plan, we to do things the typical way so that people that are typically involved in set construction and all could be paid to do the work and all. So I like that because film is something that creates community and also jobs for people. So that was on plan to create sets and everything the traditional way using wood and all. Yeah, whatever you see on a typical making of. But in 2017 or so, something happened that the money that was supposed to come in for the production, for the sets to be built, didn't come in time. So that was number one. Number two, my second son was born. Challenging nights and everything. It was something that happens. It's both joyful and challenging at the same time, that kind of thing. And of course, I needed to spend time with my eldest son. So things became challenging. And the third thing happened. My dad suddenly was out of nowhere. He got cancer. It was shocking. Yeah, it was shocking. He's out of it, thankfully, by now. But Dan was like, wow, what was going on? So it was like me shuttling between filming, having to take care of my son, both sons, having to go visit my dad almost every day, spending time with my mom. It was crazy. And then to make things worse, something happened among the cast and the crew such that it threatened to shut down the production. And by then, I was working on it about 5 years. Something happened that threatened to shut down the production. So one morning at about 6 a.m., after sending my eldest son to school, I was sitting in the dark of the office. It's just too heavy to even turn on the lights. So I sat down there and I wondered, how am I going to start filming what needs to be shot on a set in less than 3 weeks' time? And I was just looking at the emptiness of the space, and because I was on the floor, I could see dustbins, trash bins, and all. And I thought, suddenly something dawned upon me. Dad, what if I could do the reverse? From what would be thrown away, or what has been thrown away, could I build something out of it? I remember when I was a kid, I used to dismantle toys to build weird stuff. When I was, people told me that things cannot be done. I used to go to there was no recycling back then in the 1980s and 90s, but it was trash bins to take things out to build things that I want for costumes and all. Could I do it professionally? Could I do it for a film? The kind of thing. And that got me started. I went to all the trash compactors. I call it my treasure. And I started building, and it worked. And I started to have fun. And like I was building real life Lego pieces, started to restore things so that it's modular. Yeah. And I started to instead think back on the time in the 80s when I made short films as a kid, smoke and mirrors, using different things when there was no digital technology, how to do things in a fun, practical effects way. How do I bring them together? Yeah. And that's how it started, from something unintentional.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so impressive to me, to take a situation and say, well, I think a lot of times that's a situation where some of us go, well, we're just not going to happen. And you're like, no, it's going to happen, which I think is very impressive. I saw where, and then there was just the big, holographic computer projections that we're all used to seeing in sci-fi. I was amazed that you animated that on a computer screen and then just reflected it on a big piece of glass. It looked like. I was like, I can't believe that worked. That's very clever. So I love seeing stuff like that. Now you remind me of your main character when you said that, when you're tinkering around, building things or whatever. That seems like that's one of Kai's strengths, right? Is that and I don't know if that comes from a place of your own interest in tinkering, fixing, because he's very, very much into that, right?
Yeah, I think it's unintentional because when I came out with the script in 2012, I showed it to my wife. One of the comments that she said was like, there's a little bit of you in everything. I was like, what? I mean, as a writer, you do not intentionally put yourself inside because you want distinctive characters, the kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but I think it was inevitable in a way that sort of some parts of me, the experiences that we go through, go up, we express through the different personalities that are found in those characters. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what were some of the things that led you to approach this type of story, to put it into this sci-fi setting, or, were there inspirations or thoughts that you had that led to wanting to tell the story this way?
Interestingly enough, I had no intention at all to tell a sci-fi story at all. It was, again, 2012, long story short, after working 8 months on a film where I was a producer, setting things up for a director, the financing, the production schedule and stuff. Suddenly one day he just texts me. Those days there was no WhatsApp, so just an SMS, and he said he can't do it. I was like, what? After 8 months, everything's in place. All you need to do is to direct. He said he can't do it. Later on, I found out why. It's because of fear. He feared, even though everything was for him, but fear held him back. So I remember that day when I received the text. I went into the living room. My eldest son was 3 years old, and my wife was there, and I just told them, it's over. Everything that we have been waiting for, all the pay, salary that was promised, everything is over. 8 months of work just over. At that moment, in the small little flat we had, we hugged in the darkness. It was dramatic, unintentional. And I told my wife that no matter what happens, I'm not sure what am I going to do. Whatever that happens next is I need to do it such that people know that fear should not hold them back. And I want a message for my kid, my wife, and whoever that one day might listen, that fear holds and destroys too many things.
Yeah.
So I told my wife, give me 3 days. Let me lock myself in a room, just coming out to eat and to sleep, and let's see what happens. And all credit to her, she took care of my son for 3 days. So in the room for 3 days. Many people ask, was it like furiously writing, inspiration, lightning strike? No. It was 3 days of fighting my own fears. It was a battle inside. And I had to sabotage myself, because on my computer screen was a picture of my son and my wife. Like, what am I doing with my life? Why am I dragging them down? What is going to happen? All these different fears.
Yeah.
And my son was outside screaming, "Dad, let me in," the kind of thing, So it was 3 days of struggles. And when things settled down through the battles, it's never like making sure that there is no fear, I feel. It is working through the fears. That's how I feel, working through the fears, overcome one fear at a time. And as I was fighting, I began to write. I said, I want to write a character that's so lonely. One character, lonely with all his limitations. No one understands him. He seems to have lost everything. But what if this character had a friend? So I put a friend inside. How would they interact? How would things change? But what if this friend is a robot? Why a robot? Mm-hmm. Because I felt from the sounds of my kid outside, I remember the one thing that connects me, a 33-year-old man, and a 3-year-old son outside, were robots. When I remember the days that we were under blankets, pretending we're looking at the stars and imagining flying off to distant lands in robots. So I thought that's why I wanted to be a robot. And what would happen if I put these two characters into a world that has these battles taking place with weird, over-the-top characters surrounding them? How would they interact and how would that affect? And that was how then I decided to craft the story, all through the eyes of Kai and his robot little dragon. So no matter what happens, we won't get too carried away by the visual effects, by the world, by the fights. It's always a character base, so that we see and understand only what Kai and Little Dragon know. And that's how the film was built up.
I loved that makes a lot of sense because of a lot of the fiction I've seen where there's some big mech robot that's piloted by a character. They're usually not sentient. They usually are just kind of there, just sitting there. I mean, like sometimes or whatever, but this was an actual, so that, that makes a lot of sense to why there's this relationship between. One of the thoughts that I had as I'm watching is you made the world building around whenever they were building these robot mech devices for the soldiers or the pilots, is that it reflected their own abilities, their own weaknesses, it's like, hey, if you're a big, strong guy, your robot's going to be big and strong. It's like, and it didn't say, that was just a very interesting connection. And they said, as you grow in your attributes, the robot will too. And I thought that was an interesting tie-in because then Kai can't just be like, yeah, here's my big kick-ass robot that's going to compensate for all my fears and weaknesses and even so I thought that was a very powerful idea to tie that in character-wise, that they were connected in that way. Yeah. I was curious about, so how did you arrive at that, to have them have that kind of bond to where they couldn't get stronger than each other?
Yeah, I mean, that's rightfully said, because I don't claim, like you said in the beginning, to know all the mecha genres and films.
Right.
Those that I do know, the robots are just a robot. It's a machine, that kind of thing. But again, from the beginning, I said, what if this is a friend? So the other question then is, where does the friend derive the starting point, the baseline personality, that kind of thing? Back in 2012, AI was not proliferated as it is right now. So I had freedom to imagine what AI could be.
Yeah.
So for me, I thought, what if I could plant a seed? Like many people say, like birds of a feather flock together, right? So it doesn't mean that two people are the same, but they're similar in some ways. So what if I could derive this robot's personality from the original Kai for that to be the baseline? What would happen? And because it's AI, it will be built up. The characters may start from a common point, but they might begin to grow, deviate, and have its own personality, so on. So if you watch the beginning of the movie, you will see them bickering a lot. Mm-hmm. That kind of reflects sometimes we are our so-called worst enemy, like they say. So this is, in a way, how I wrote that arguments, the interesting parts. And then as you go along, experiences, we view it from different angles, different point of views. That's how a personality grows, and the kind of thing. So that is how I wanted to develop the character of Little Dragon, or rather all the mechs in this world. Yeah.
One thing that struck me too was a balance that you had between the serious nature of the war, the serious nature of what Kai is going through, and yet there's a lot of joy and humor that's woven into this as well. And I thought it was remarkable to see, like, a commanding officer who could be truly intimidating, who could be, have some serious attributes of a drill sergeant kind of thing, and at the same time be quite silly at times in different ways. And was that, I mean, obviously you had to think about how to do that. How did you approach trying to balance? Because frankly, I thought it came off very well, to be like, there's a lot of like serious, heavy moments here, but then somebody might just have like a weird shrieky sound or put something into it that's like, oh, that was a joyful comedic thing as well. Yeah.
So it's a funny thing, because when I wrote the script, or rather when I finished the script, and I let my wife see it for the first time, she was like, so there's a lot of nonsense inside. That's how we speak, nonsense inside. I'm like, what? I didn't expect it. I didn't set out to write comedy or have comedic elements, but when I was inside, like, overcoming my fears, I decided to write something, not second guessing what other people might say. I mean, a lot of creators might say this, especially in today's social media world, when they create, let's say, all the TikTok videos and all the kind of thing. It's when you create it, you want people to like it. You want people to have positive reactions. I mean, all creators want it. But it becomes an inhibiting thing when you fear rejection, when your creation is limited by what people like or do not like. And, in a way, you lose your freedom, because you're just creating what you think people will like. Mm-hmm. So one of the rules that I had set for myself was to create something that I could freely create without fearing what people might think and all that kind of thing. So I think that is how my wife said a part of my personality that comes in, because I'm known for my friends to be able to sit through a comedy with a straight face. I'm your worst test audience. I'll be at a comedy and I'll be, And they would ask me, Rich, you don't find it funny? I said, I loved it. Why weren't you laughing? And I would joke and say, well, if I were to laugh, or if I were to laugh when I tell a joke, it's not cool anymore. That kind of laugh. So I appreciate humor to the point that I don't need to express it. I mean, maybe it's something wrong with me. I'm not sure, but you can tell me.
Well, it was wrong in a way that worked out pretty well for this.
Yeah, so I didn't expect it when we had a test audience and people they ranked comedy as one of the top 3 things that would describe the movie. Yeah, so I was surprised. Yeah, so it was not intentional in the way, but I think it came up. Yeah.
Well, and who knows? I mean, that's probably one of the best ways to have something like that happen, because that I felt like both with, you can see this in drama or comedy, the risk of having some character that's just like, this is all they are. But I felt like most of the characters that I'm seeing there, they seem to have some different motivations and different, which they seem more like real people. And real people are funny sometimes, especially when they're being inconsistent or have a hypocrisy or doubt themselves or whatever. And to see a character, you know, to see someone who's in a drill sergeant role who's like, ugh, did I do that wrong? Occasionally, right? But at the same time, I'm not going to show that to my guys, you know, or whatever. And it felt really real in that way. At the same time, in a very fantastical universe, and including that. So that's I always think, especially with something that is fantastical, fantasy, or sci-fi, when you can tell when people forget that it's about characters.
Correct.
And it becomes about the world instead of the world being a cool place to play around with these people.
Exactly. That's how I feel. Yeah. One funny thing about characters.
Yeah.
The people, so one of the questions he asked me, how does it feel to direct people in the background and all? They felt that because we have such a small crew, how do you direct the many people? And this is what I say. Give everyone a purpose, even the background characters. Give them a purpose, and no matter the situation, they will know how they should react. In literature forms, it means to give them a character. So I would brief every single background character person, or even write notes to give it to them. Even for the background artists, this is your character. This is your fake backstory. They always laugh at me because it's like ridiculous. I would even have a backstory for a guy in the background. So that whenever I shout action, they would know how they should do it, and they would do it consistently. So you give someone a character and a purpose, they would know what to do.
So I'm not just a guy walking past. I'm a guy walking past who has fears and hopes and dreams and a family and things, and I'm going to walk a certain way, probably differently because of that. That's fascinating.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, one of them, I told them, you have a limp because that's why you are a admin officer, because you dropped out. Then the guy's like, oh, really? I can't do cool stuff. I'm sorry. You wanted to do cool stuff, but you can't. And I won't show which character it is, but in the film it shows when he looks at the pilots, he's looking in a way of admiration, and it's consistent in every take. I think he looked with the look of admiration, and he walks with the same limp on his left foot. Yeah.
So that's a whole different take on, because when people say world building, they're usually thinking of what are the rules of the aliens or the interstellar travel or the whatever. And it's like, you're talking about world building in the sense of, here's a guy who's struggling with his own acceptance of his hopes and dreams maybe being dashed, who we're never really going to know him other than just he's there. Yeah. Wow. That's a lot of deep thought into it. I'm curious how that ties in. You mentioned before that a key part of even making this happen was you've had to push past and transcend some of the fear impulses, right? And a couple of things you mentioned here where you're like, I'm just making it. I'm not making it to try to appeal. I'm just making the story. I'm approaching people. I'm giving them purpose, things like that. Does that tie in with their fearless approach, trying to get past the fear?
Yeah, in a way it does. I mean, for me, I think there is no point in time that we will be truly fearless. It is about living every day, stepping into your fears and then overcoming them, and experiencing the joys of being an overcomer every single day, every single instance, every single challenge that comes your way. So I think that this people seeking to live totally fearlessly, in my opinion, it may be a pursuit that is too distracting because it may be too far-fetched. Rather, we should be working I feel we should be working at overcoming fear every single day. And that is not just a practical way, but a more enjoyable way where you feel fulfillment from overcoming. And next is to bring people along, people who are trapped in fear. So be an encourager then. Not that you've been there, done that, but because I've experienced something, I won't experience it the way you do. I acknowledge that, but I can empathize with that fear you have. So let me walk with you. Let me just be your friend. And I feel that becomes more significant. Relationships becomes deeper and stronger because of that. Not because we are fearless, but because we are all overcomers of fears that come along the way. Yeah.
It struck me that not only was it important for, obviously Kai was a character who struggled a lot with fear. That was his, a big part of the story. And as you mentioned before, his friend, Little Dragon, the mech, the robot, that they're friends. The other thing that I saw, though, was that even with the two of them, with their own struggles, they didn't and maybe couldn't really do it completely alone, that there was a sense of community that was there. I felt like all throughout, all the people, like the trainees, the pilots and everything like that, that without that sense of community, he probably still wouldn't have been able to make it through this adventure.
Yeah, that's exactly so. Yeah, sometimes we feel alone, but I always share with those who feel down that, it's a wrong perception already. Not so wrong, sorry, I take it back. It's more like a fake perception that we have built up along the way, that I'm this lone ranger kind of thing. No one understands me. No one will care about me. We can't help that there will be trolls out there, the people who want to hurt you for whatever hurting reasons that they do have. But there are also those who are willing to just reach out, to those who are willing to walk alongside you, to hear you, not just to shut you out, to encourage you instead of just stamping on you. We just need to get out of that fake mold. And sometimes it takes another who went through it to give you the nudge to get out that mold. Yeah.
Wow. There are a few little things that I saw pop up I was curious about. There's this dynamic when they're in the base and they're doing trainings and they're going around and stuff. Periodically, there's an overhead announcements of things like, it's time for dinner and it's done. But I thought it was very interesting that there seemed to be like a daily, the captain's quote for today and some inspirational quote that came through. And I was curious how I don't know if did you write those or did you adapt them or yeah. And where these inspirational quotes, I was curious about some of your drive behind creating those.
Well, I hate to disappoint you if you were expecting a philosophical answer, because the truth is I was writing nonsense.
That's what hit me about it. Is it struck me like so many, because a lot of these like motivational statements people say in business settings, especially, it's kind of like you listen to it and you're like, wow. And then you think about it for 2 seconds and you're like, what the hell? Did they say anything? And I was curious if that, yeah. So it was just kind of like, was that the point? Was that here's the captain throwing out things that are like, what?
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're thinking, oh, there's something, and then the end is like, what? It's like nonsense, the kind of thing. So that was a consistent thing I wanted to do. So I tested it. I had a few nonsense things with llamas.
Yeah, that was my favorite one. It was like, what was it, like a camel met a llama, and the llama's like, are you a llama? Are you a camel? And that was all. that was it.
Oh, is that it? Yeah, that's it. What's the point? There's no point.
There's no real point. But yet delivered in a way, it just hit me how perfect that is. It's like the motivational. It reminds me of going to conferences where they'd hire someone who's a keynote motivational speaker, and they pump you up, and then you walk out inside and say, "What did they say? Nothing, really. I mean, they just got excited,
You got scammed.
Why? Yeah." But I thought that those touches, once again, did make it feel a little bit more real world to say, here's the thing, we're all supposed to, nobody's going to go, hey, Captain, that was dumb. Nope, we don't talk that way to the captain. We're just going to put up with it. Anyway. I also for me, I'm a sucker for whenever there's a consistency. I think that it's always jarring when there's an inconsistency, like a character will all of a sudden be a different person. And because they need to be nice in this scene, so they'll be nice in a way that they haven't been nice the whole time. Or they need to be brave in this scene, they'll be brave in a way that they've never been brave. And I felt like your characters all did what they did, just in different ways. So their arc, with Kai's arc, he doesn't end the movie as a different person. He just does different stuff. But I felt like he did bravery in the way that worked for him to do it, not the way that everybody else would do bravery.
Yeah.
And is that difficult to adapt to say, how do I make him consistently when he's strong? He's going to be strong in the same way that we see him when he's being weak.
Yeah. So I would always say that people will regret it when they ask me for a character Bible, because it is so thick.
Yeah.
So Even
Oh
even
no,
characters.
that sounds great for me. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to make sure that, like you say, consistency. I have to create not just characters but personalities. I create lives. And lives and personalities are shaped by experiences and so on and so forth, even before they enter the film. So I wanted to write, like more the childhood, what shaped that every single character, why they behave a certain way, even though it might not be expressed in this film. I wanted it to, when they react to Kai, it is consistent. And when certain things happen, like a war or an action takes place, it's consistent. So I believe it all begins with me taking the time, the pain, to write down so-called the rules of who they are in this film. Yeah.
Wow. It's one of the things. So here's me. Here's my an analytical nature. You can tell me if I'm just like making up stuff here. But I noticed that, speaking of strengths, weaknesses being used as strengths or personal attributes or whatever. I noticed that in one of the final fights, Little Dragon stomps he's flying around and he uses this like maneuver where he stomps on a bad guy. And it occurred to me that I was like, throughout the movie, it seemed like whenever he'd land, he had trouble with like stomping on things or scraping his foot weird, or even when they were just kind of going down the hill, he does this big stomp and ruins somebody's farming or something. And I thought, he's having trouble with landing with his feet. And then he landed with his feet right on an enemy in a way that I was like, hey, maybe that was better than maybe he's good at a battle maneuver. I have no idea if that was on purpose, but it seemed to me that it was like, oh, hey, he struggles with that, and he used it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Right. Am I just making up stuff?
No, you're right. In fact, I mean, as people watch the films, no spoilers here, but you see he has a gun. He has a gun. He's got a blade, but he doesn't use it all the time. It's same as Kai. He's not perfect. He's making things up as he goes along or trying to adapt it as best as he can. So similarly for Little Dragon, because his personality is though is growing, is still tied to Kai. That is how it is, and I'm glad you picked it up. Yeah, not only the stomp, but you notice he uses his hands.
Yes. Yeah, that was what hit me because a lot of times I think in stories like this, it's very easy for someone to just go, okay, once they believe in themselves, all of a sudden they're faster, stronger, have better aim, smarter at certain things, have talents that they've, especially when they've demonstrated throughout the story that they are not good at certain things. And I did think that was something that I found both charming, it was funny, but also made him more real, is that there were many things Kai was not good at. even when he gave up and did a thing, or he does this thing or whatever, the things he's good at, he's very good at, and the things he's not. And I feel like that is a trap of heroes and stories, to be like, once they're confident, they're good at everything. And that's not, to all of a sudden be like, he's good at everything now. But he used what he was good at better, I think, without the fear. At least that was how it seemed to me.
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah.
Wow. It's premiering, as you said, I think tomorrow, as of our recording, it's the next day, premiering at Cinequest Film Festival March 14th, which is tomorrow from right now anyway, or a few days ago if people are hearing this whenever it comes out. But anyway, how is this your first festival premiere, or has it been going around some places?
So it's interesting to note that the work in progress version of it was shown in a couple of festivals. I'm very thankful for that. And even theoretically screened in a commercial cinemas in Japan.
Yeah, and that was where you said you're tweaking it, working on it still? Yeah. Yeah.
The first the first festival that a work in progress was shown in was 2000, and what year are we at? 2024 at Fantasia, where it was the work in progress. So at Cinequest, it will be the first time the final version that not even my family has ever seen will be shown. So I'm pretty excited about it.
That is exciting. When you're going around and doing all that with the different festivals or the different places to see it, do we know where can people follow the progress of this film? So that, because I always like to tell people, if they're not able to go to the festival, where can they find this, and how can they tell when it's going to go into wider distribution? Is there a social media place or a website where they should watch and follow it?
Yeah, the easiest place is you just key in theboyandhisrobot.com, and yeah, you will be, that main link will redirect you to social media, the kind of thing. So theboyandhisrobot.com is the best place to be.
Nice. Do we have any insight? This is one of those questions that sometimes people are like, I'm not sure. Sometimes they're like, I am but sure, but I can't say. Are we moving forward? And is there any clues on distribution and where this is going to go?
Oh, so I can say that because It's just been announced like last month officially. So for North America, I'm so glad and privileged that Radio Entertainment, Shout Studios, they have signed on to be a North American distributor.
Nice.
So hopefully it will be released in a wide way. I'm hoping theoretically as well soon. So that people not just enjoy the story, but can be encouraged by the message of the 13 years journey and not to give up. I feel that this is a bigger story, a message that is beyond the containment of the film that people should get. Yeah.
Are we hopefully going to see any more of Kai in the future? Is there a sequel potential here?
So those 3 days when I was in the room, I resolved one thing. I mean, this is a personal preference. I personally do not like sequels or prequels for the sake of it.
Yes.
Because again, we have been talking a lot about characters and consistency. So it's the same thing, the consistency. So I actually wrote synopsises for 6 stories in hope that one day I can tell them. Yeah. And Kai's story is just the first one that comes out. But the elements, the world, the characters, even certain things, even the scenery that you see, certain things that people will not notice at all in The Boy and His Robot, it's already there. So that eventually, if I get to tell the next story, you can see it all ties in together.
Interesting.
Yeah, consistent from the beginning.
I'm excited. That's exciting for me. I'm looking forward to it. Is there a place?
Me too. I hope.
Is there a place? Obviously, theboyandhisrobot.com. Is there anywhere else people should follow you to see your career and just other things? Anywhere else you direct them, or? Sure.
You can follow me on Instagram. I'm a very private person, so I'm very bad at social media, as to say. But I'm trying. It is Instagram, RichHo_official. That is how you can find me.
RichHo_official. Gotcha.
Official, yeah. And maybe you'll get some nonsense like the captain's wisdom from me as well.
I am very, very grateful for the chance to talk to you. I'm grateful you made the movie too. This is as I always like to tag on here for people. When you see these kinds of things coming around, follow the social media, go to these websites. These are the kind of movies people say they want to see, which is original stories that aren't just existing tentpole IPs, as much as I'm a fan of some of those. These are the kinds of things that we want to see more of. So everybody should go. In fact, you may be surprised if you live in a area that's large enough, or even small areas, you may have film festivals nearby that maybe you should buy some tickets to and go support. Everybody should be doing that. One more question I wanted to ask you was, there was a quote that you throw up there on the screen during the kind of making of portion. You were saying to your son, and I wonder if you could share that with everybody.
Sure. Yeah. So I have 2 sons now. When I was writing the film in 2012, my eldest boy was 3. Now he's 17. Oh, and they grow up too fast.
It's wild. I've got 2 young adults.
It's crazy.
Kids. I'm like, whoa, what happened?
My baby is gone. You know the kind of thing. So, and my second son, he's 9 this year. So they're quite range. But one thing I back in 2012, when I looked at my son, there was a picture there of me with my hand out, about to hold the hand of my son. And my son was hugging a soft toy. And he was looking at me and smiling and talking. What was going on in that derived that quote that you were asking me about? So it was a picture that my wife took of me stepping out of my house after being locked up for 3 days. And my son was so happy to see his dad. He was just telling me what happened and holding his son. And I remember then in that scene, my wife took the picture. What was going on in my head? It was really true that, yes, I may have written a script, but I have no idea how it could be done. I have no idea how it would end or whether it would end. But when I looked at him, I knew it is not a movie he needs from his father. It is not that I kept to my creation or anything like that. I needed my son before anything that he might derive from this was the message that whatever you decide to start, make sure you finish it. No matter how long it takes, no matter what it takes, finish it. And that was what was going on in my head. That's why in the movie it says, son, I do not know how it would be, but I just know that we will finish it. And after 13 years, both my sons witnessing their father working on this one film, I'm so glad and so touched when my eldest boy told me that, Dad, whatever it is, the film, he said, he only got to watch the film last year. He said, whatever it is, whatever enjoyment he derived, it is secondary, because he said that he grew up knowing and seeing that the message of not giving up, to finish what you started, could be lived out. And to me as a father, I think that is the best thing that happened, whatever that happens to this movie. That was the best thing that happens. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I know that
Thank you.
message, not only does it come across in the film, but as you're talking about it now, I know that that's going out to everybody out there. There's always lots of opportunity to be afraid. And I'll say right now, there's lots of things out there that people are struggling with. And so that's an inspirational message. And I'm so grateful for you coming here today to share it with us.
Thanks for the time and thanks for the opportunity.